Hey everyone, it's Matt here with Night Run Studio, and I'm working on Willard, my slightly overambitious passion project where I'm somehow combining a story-driven platformer with a cozy village builder and anxiety-inducing tower defense game, because apparently I hate free time. Right now I'm in that magical phase of development where the platforming systems are just starting to talk to the city building systems, kind of like two awkward teenagers at a school dance. But slowly, very slowly, this world is becoming something real. I didn't hit my goal of having a demo ready by the end of summer, but the world of Willard did get a little more alive. And that's what today's devlog is about. How I went from I have no idea how to make art to building environments that actually feel like they belong in this world. Art isn't something that comes naturally to me, but I get students who walk into my game dev class, open up Photoshop, and just breathe out beautiful pixel art like it's oxygen. For me, art is about as natural as trying to lick my elbow. When I started making Willard just over 3 years ago, I was lost really, but I believed that I could learn anything with enough practice. So I practiced a lot. Here are my first few characters, and my first level. If that guy can learn, you probably can too. I'm still no expert, but I've come a long way, and in this video, I want to show you how my art actually started getting better. And it started with buildings. If you're learning pixel art, this might give you a couple practical tips to help you level up a lot faster than I did. Characters are hard. They wiggle, they squash, they look wrong if one pixel's off. But buildings are forgiving. They're just shapes, and I can make shapes. So today I'm gonna walk you through how I created this building and give you my top tips on getting started with environment art. Tip number 1, reference art is not cheating. When I started, I tried drawing everything from my imagination, which was a little like trying to paint Van Gogh's The Potato Eaters with a potato. Now, I use reference images. A lot. But here's the trick. I use reference art from different styles. I never use pixel art references. I find real photos, 3D models, even concept sketches. That way I'm inspired, not copying. It forces my version to take on its own unique life. Tip number 2. Think about scale early. If you don't lock down a consistent scale, you end up with mixels, things that don't match in pixel density or size. In Willard, everything is based on 32 pixels per unit. This building will be on that same grid, and we'll probably make it about 10 pixels high and maybe just give it a little extra for good measure. So anytime I create a building, I drop Willard in there beside it, just to make sure I haven't accidentally made a Hobbit house or a Costco. Tip number 3. Use color palettes, not just random nice colors. Early on, I used to go on runs, film beautiful mountain scenes, and then use the eyedropper to grab colors. That actually wasn't terrible. Nature's just better at art than me. But eventually, I found other tools like lowspec.com for curated game palettes, and even coolers.co, where you can drop in your beautiful mountain scene and get it to generate a palette for you from the picture. Now I have a base palette for Willard that keeps my art consistent. Tip number 4, don't draw buildings, build buildings. This is where things really clicked for me. Instead of drawing a whole building, I create the pieces. I start with one board, add highlights on the top right, shadows on the bottom left, and mess it up a little because perfect equals plastic. Then I make a vertical version, a diagonal version, and a cartoony, warped version to give it a cartoony sort of style. Next up, I'd like to do some stonework, so I outline the stone and add a little bit of light and dark shading. I then duplicate so I have a few variants and then create a capstone that's going to go across the top when I'm done. I can then plop these down on the outline I created and make some darker variants. Boom, I've got pixel Lego. Now I can assemble the capstones across the top and then just start kind of placing these other ones however I like, as random as possible, as that makes it look a little more natural. I add the darker ones in the back for extra depth. Eventually I can just trim the edges along the bottom and top, and suddenly I've got a pretty nice looking little layer to go along the bottom of my house. At this point I'm ready to start framing in some shapes, so I create a doorway, and then I'm going to make a window, but let's just shade this a slightly different color of brown so it looks like we've got multiple types of wood and it doesn't all blend together. Can frame in the window, and then I'll just make a smaller version of the wood as sort of a cross beam here. And now let's just add some diagonal beams to get that sort of old German style of house going. And now it's sort of starting to look like a house. Keep repeating this system for the second floor, looking back at my reference art so it doesn't look like a Minecraft starter base. At this point, too much pattern is sort of your enemy, so rather than repeat the brick this time, I'm going to do sort of a lattice work wood thing along the bottom. I'll then just fill it in so it still looks like it belongs as part of the same house. Another great way to spice things up at this point is just a little change, like let's round the tops of the windows on this floor so they stand out a little bit from the ones down below. Also, remember that tower from the reference art? Let's add that in on the side here now. And now for one of the ideas I really loved in the reference art, that loft that sticks haphazardly out from the side of the building. I'm going to change this one just a little bit. It won't be rounded like in the picture, and I'll support it with a single beam here so it looks like it sort of makes sense structurally, but I still like the precariousness of it overall. Now with that loft sort of finished, I like the lattice work we've been using, so I think I'm going to add that into the tower. Then get a window here, and I feel like this final floor needs a little bit of squishing, so let's get those rounded windows and actually make them a little shorter so we can have a roof that kind of hangs down over top. Which brings me to my next tip. Tip number 5, add an unexpected pop of color. At this point, things are actually starting to look pretty good, but good isn't what I'm going for. We want eye-catching. And one of my favorite tricks is to add a color that doesn't really belong there, but magically works anyways. So I grabbed this nice looking cerulean. I think it's cerulean. Honestly, I just like saying cerulean. And just like before, I go back to simple shapes. A few rectangles, nudge them out of perfection, and suddenly I've got shingles. Not perfect shingles, better, slightly crooked, imperfect, organic looking shingles. I stack them, slightly uneven, add a little shading between the layers to give them depth. And then I'll sort of rinse and repeat for each of the two peaks. Start off by giving a little bit of framing to each of them and then add the shingles in layers. But this time we'll have them come in just a little bit on the sides with each new layer so that we get this idea of it sloping up towards the top. Once I've got that looking about the way I want it to, I can go ahead and add just a little bit of shading under each of these layers. And this is where the beauty of the modular nature of this comes into play. I'm not totally happy with the way that's looking. It just doesn't feel like a sharp enough angle, and so I can go ahead and just readjust layers, even grabbing individual shingles and moving them into place until I get it just right. Now you'll have to bear with me as here, I actually have a bit of a train wreck. I just couldn't quite get this looking the way, and then I kept readjusting and adjusting some more. And again, because of how modular this is, I was able to keep trying until I got it just right without having to start over again. It just took me a little while to get where I wanted to go. Now eventually I got the angle just right, finally. And then I just added some more shading to all of the new stuff, and then I just grabbed some shingles that I just kind of put here and there to look like patches in order to make the whole thing feel a little more weathered. A quick copy paste and I've got my second steeple all finished, and that unexpected pop of color kind of steals the show. Tip 6, shading matters, more than you might think. Even though each individual piece already has its own highlights and shadows, I always do one final shading pass over the whole building. This is where the magic happens. I drop in shadows under roof overhangs, the second floor, window frames, beams, anywhere light realistically wouldn't reach. And somehow in just a few brush strokes, the building suddenly feels solid. It exists, it has weight. It's not just a drawing anymore, it's a place. It's honestly one of the fastest ways to add depth and mood to your art, and it makes you look way better at pixel art than you might actually be. Tip number 7, give it a story, make it lived in. And the final tip, remember, this isn't just a building, someone lives here. In my case, this house belongs to Martin. He's kind of a lovable disaster, nervous, goofy, overly enthusiastic, and absolutely not qualified to do structural engineering. So that weird third floor that's awkwardly hanging off the side of the building, very Martin. The crooked shingles, Martin. The window that looks like it's trying to escape, definitely Martin. But to really sell that this is his space, that someone actually lives here, I like to add personal touches. So I stole a rope from another one of my assets, grabbed a plank, tossed on a few clothing sprites, and suddenly we have a clothesline, with Martin's patterned boxers proudly fluttering in the breeze. Instant personality. Little details like this don't just make your art look better, They make your world feel alive. So here we are, crooked little house on the edge of a cliff, made of pixels, patience, and more trial and error than I'd like to admit. But somehow it feels like a place. It has a personality, it belongs in the world of Archaea. And for me, that's the magic of this journey. It didn't start beautiful. It started confusing, wobbly, and honestly kind of embarrassing. But just like teaching, just like game development, if you keep showing up, piece by piece, plank by plank, eventually you build something you're proud of. I didn't hit my summer demo goal, I'm still not done, but every building, every tile, every weird little pair of fluttering boxers means the world of Willard is getting more real. And that's what keeps me going. Not perfection, progress. So, thanks for hanging out. I hope this helped you, even if it's just to remind you that learning something new is supposed to be messy. I've got more Willard updates coming, along with the mistakes I make on the way. Hope to see you in that video. Until that time though, this is Matt with Nightrun Studio. Cheers.